Wow. It's a really nice largemouth. Hello there, and welcome everyone. Today we're fishing a drainage that has not been featured on this channel, and that's the Ogeechee River drainage. The Ogeechee drainage is between the Altamaha River drainage that we fished in the last video and the Savannah River drainage to the east. The Ogeechee River drainage is kind of unique for several reasons. First, it's one of the last free-flowing rivers in the state of Georgia. The Ogeechee actually starts in the Piedmont region of the state before it flows over the fall line across the coastal plain to the Atlantic Ocean. The Ogeechee is also the only river in Georgia flowing from the Piedmont across the fall line that does not have Alabama bass. Only two species of black bass are native to the Ogeechee River drainage: the largemouth bass and the Florida bass. Altamaha bass are also found in the upper Ogeechee above the fall line. Most experts believe the Ogeechee population was introduced, so Altamaha bass are considered a non-native species in this drainage. They're also the only non-native species of black bass in the Ogeechee drainage, so let's hope it stays that way. You should never move or introduce non-native species of black bass. We've all seen countless examples of why this is bad. Fortunately, the Altamaha bass is an upland species of black bass, so they don't hybridize or compete with native species in the Ogeechee River drainage. Today, we're fishing the upper Ogeechee above the fall line. That's why you're seeing all this rock right now. Below the fall line, all the metamorphic and igneous rocks are buried under the sand, clay, silt, and gravel sediment of the coastal plain. You do find limestone in the coastal plain region of several states, but limestone is a sedimentary rock. We're going to talk more about that in another video, but when most people think of the Ogeechee River, they probably picture a slow-moving blackwater river winding across the sandy coastal plain. Well, about 95% of the Ogeechee River probably looks like that. Above the fall line, however, it looks very different, as you can see. That kind of looked like a mudfish, aka bowfin, but yep. No, that's a bass. It's a nice bass. Come here, buddy. I don't even think he knows what's going on. Wow. My pliers are in the kayak, which is a really good place for them. Get over here where we can wash this fish off. The water's real low right now, so there's a lot of dead water in these shoals. Okay. It's a really nice largemouth, especially for a small stream. Get this fish back in the water. I need a largemouth for the Georgia Bass Slam, but I'm gonna do a separate video for for the largemouth, so gonna let that guy go. Now, I just called that fish a largemouth bass, but without genetic confirmation, the only way to field ID largemouth bass and Florida bass in a lake or river system that has both fish is by counting lateral line scales. And this is pretty difficult if you're not a biologist. You'll probably need a magnification tool or a high-resolution image of the fish to get a really accurate scale count. You're also going to have largemouth Florida hybrids in systems that have both fish. And hybrids can have many of the same physical traits as parent species when they start back crossing. Does that include lateral line scales? I don't know, I'll have to ask a biologist that, but I'm not sure anglers can reliably ID these fish in systems where both are present. This basically includes Atlantic and Gulf Coastal Plain rivers from the Cape Fear River in North Carolina west to the Ogeechee River in the Florida Panhandle. What I want to show you is this flat water out here. And when I say flat water, it's like a lake. There's no current. It's flat. And we know that because we see all this dead leaf material, and you know, it's fall. There's a lot of dead leaf material, organic material out here floating on the surface of the water. And there's really no current in this section between this shoal and the one downstream. If there was, that debris would not be floating on the surface out there like that. It would be pushed up against the shoal downstream. So this tells us a few things about this sort of environment we have here. Because it is like a lake without current, that allows a lot of fine sediment to settle here. You know, there's a lot of dead leaf material that just settles to the bottom, a lot of silt and fine sediment grains, fine grains of sediment, silt, clay, sand, really fine sediment grains. Without current, those really fine sediment particles just settle to the bottom, and it's very much like a farm pond or a small lake. Very soft bottom with a lot of mud and dead organic material. So without current, I would not expect there to be any upland species of black bass in this section between this shoal and the one downstream. There might be a few largemouth, but really without current, I wouldn't even fish this, to be honest with you. It does look good. There's a lot of big bedrock outcrops and some boulders and some large trees in the water. In the winter, I might fish something like this. That's about the only time that I fish water like this. And the reason I fish it in the winter is without current, this water is it's not moving without current, obviously. So that allows the sun to warm this section. And what a lot of people don't know or realize is that even though the habitat in this section is unsuitable, the water will warm and in this section, and then it will eventually move downstream. So sometimes in the winter, I will fish moving water below these large stagnant sections like this because that water will be a few degrees warmer. Maybe not a few degrees, but the fish, it can make a difference, you know, in the wintertime when the water's cold. So just wanted to mention that real quick. Wow. Another largemouth. They're largemouth. Look at the crayfish antenna. Another largemouth. That could be a Florida bass. I can't really count the lateral line scales. I would need probably a magnifying glass, but that could be a Florida bass, or it could be a largemouth Florida hybrid. See you, buddy. Another chunky largemouth. Really, these fish are beautiful. It's pretty unusual. They typically don't have a solid stripe like that, but that is just a, well, it could be a largemouth, it could be a Florida bass in this drainage. I would have to count the lateral line scales to really know for sure. And it could also be a largemouth Florida hybrid. See ya. A chunky one. Let's get some interesting markings. That looks more like a largemouth, but they could all be the same. It could just be where the fish were holding that made the difference. This is not really how you want to fish a bank like this. You'd like to come at it from downstream and fish parallel, or make a quartering cast. I'm working my way downstream, so I'm kind of throwing straight in, which is not really what you want to do. Your lure's just not in the strike zone as long. It's just not a very efficient way to fish a cover like this. Wow, that fish ran right at me. I knew it was a good one because I could see it. I saw that fish. The water there is just a foot deep, if that. It's another nice one. A couple pounds. Really beautiful largemouth. See you, buddy. Got all this nice rock, but it's in the sun. So this fish was over here in this nice shade. That says a lot about how important shade is on a bluebird day like this. I would be doing the same thing if I was fishing a big man-made impoundment. I wouldn't be fishing a big sunny bank like this. I'd be, you know, this time of year in the fall when the sun is lower in the sky, you have a lot more shade. You could fish really topwater all day if you want to, even at a man-made impoundment, just because the sun is so low in the sky. Wow, y'all, there was one about 4 or 5 pounds just tracking that buzzbait. I saw him on the bottom. You know what you can't really see, there's a lot of wood out off the bank, a lot of logs, kind of like what we have here. And they get kind of stuck in the, over time they get covered with sediment. And a lot of people fish the ones that you can see on the bank, but not too many people fish the ones that are out here off the bank. And right now the water is really low. We haven't had any rain for over a week, well over a week. Any significant rainfall. So all the creeks and rivers in North Georgia are pretty low right now. Very important to make long casts when you have low water, and if it's clear, you really need to make long casts. I probably would have caught that fish if I'd have made a long cast before I got on top of the cover. But I had to change the battery in my camera, so I wasn't able to do that. That's a good looking place right there. Low clear water, make really long casts whenever possible. Especially when you have sparse cover or no cover, which is even worse. Fish are even more spooky. Oh, missed one right there. Got him. Got you. You showed yourself. You tried to eat my buzzbait, but you were not successful. See ya.
long rod really helps steer your bait around these leaves. I like at least a 7-foot rod for throwing a buzzbait, unless I'm real tight to the bank throwing, you know, trying to hit spots real tight to the bank. Wow. Come on, buddy. Should have done that in the water. I wondered why you were kind of giving up there. See, that's a darker one. I'm kind of wondering if that's a Florida bass or if that's just a dark largemouth. Boy, look where something got him, man. Let me get out here. Something has clawed him. You see this right here? Those are claw marks. Maybe an otter. You can see where the claws dug in right there. Or maybe even an osprey. I don't know. See that? And then he's got one on the other side right there. I'd say either an otter or an osprey. Something with claws tried to get you, buddy. I don't think I've ever seen that on a bass, or something with claws. I mean, I know eagles and ospreys get them all the time, but I've never actually seen claw marks like that. It was almost more like an otter tried to grab him. Maybe Freddy Krueger tried to grab him.